Welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you've ever looked at those little brown patches on your skin, maybe on your hands or your face, and just thought, well, that's just part of getting older, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we are pulling apart all the research on what we call age spots, solar lentigens, or, and this is the confusing one, liver spots. Our mission is pretty focused. We want to understand what really causes these spots. And spoiler alert, it's not just about age. We're going to debunk that big medical myth around the name and then give you the tools to prevent them and, treat the ones you might already have.
And that's such a crucial mission because these spots are, they're incredibly common, but the actual science behind them is, well, it's often misunderstood. At their core, age spots are just these flat, pigmented areas. They could be light tan, almost black.
All different shades.
Exactly. And you almost always find them on areas that see the most sun. So the face, the back of your hand, shoulders. What defines them is just a localized buildup of melanin.
Okay, let's unpack that first point right away because it's the most confusing one. Why in the world did someone start calling them liver spots?
It's a complete medical misnomer that has somehow stuck around for centuries.
So it's totally wrong.
100% inaccurate. Age spots have absolutely zero to do with your liver's health or its function. The best guess, historically, is that the name just came from the color. The spots are a brownish color, similar to the organ itself. It was really just a failure of early observational medicine.
Wow.
Yeah, and modern dermatology has been very clear for decades. If you see these spots, you should be thinking about sun exposure, not your internal organs.
It's just amazing how that kind of bad information can be so stubborn. Okay, so let's define them visually. If someone is looking at a spot right now, what makes a solar lentigo different from, say, another mark on their skin?
A true age spot is typically oval or kind of circular,
Yeah.
and the edges are usually pretty well defined. And the critical detail is that they're smooth and completely flat. They're not raised up from the skin's surface. That's a key difference from some moles. They can be tiny, freckle-sized, or they can start to cluster into bigger patches.
And the name age spot, it really makes it sound like this is something that only happens after you're, I don't know, 65.
Right, and they are definitely associated with aging. The data shows something like 90% of people over 60 have them.
More than 90%.
Yeah, but they can start appearing as early as your 40s. And the key insight here for you is that age is just the time window. It isn't the cause. The appearance is driven by accumulated stress over time.
And that's where this gets really interesting, right? Where we shift from just normal aging to accelerated aging. So if it's not the liver and age is just the backdrop, what is the number one driver here?
Well, without a doubt, the main cause is cumulative exposure to UV radiation.
From the sun.
From the sun or from tanning beds. This link is so strong that the preferred scientific term is actually solar lentigens. It puts the sun right there in the name. What happens is, when UV light hits your skin, it triggers your body to produce more melanin. That's your skin's natural defense, its own sunscreen, basically.
Right.
But over time, with repeated exposure, that process kind of goes haywire. Instead of the melanin spreading out evenly, the cells that make it, the melanocytes, they start clumping together in these concentrated little pockets.
So it's like the skin is trying to protect itself, but it just gets overwhelmed and starts clumping the pigment together instead of creating a smooth, even tan. That's a really good way to think about it. And this is photoaging in action.
Exactly. That is the literal definition of photoaging, premature aging caused by light. So when we see age spots on people under 40, we classify that as a common sign of accelerated skin aging. It's visible proof that the skin has been under a lot of UV stress.
And that stress goes deeper than just the spots, doesn't it? It affects the whole structure of the skin, things like collagen and elastin.
It does. Collagen and elastin are what keep our skin firm and bouncy. UV radiation basically acts like tiny scissors, breaking down those fibers faster than your body can make new ones.
And what does that look like?
Well, that damage leads to deeper wrinkles, a kind of rough or leathery texture, and just a general loss of elasticity. So the spots are a sign that the sun damage is structural, not just on the surface.
And I'm guessing some people are more susceptible to this than others.
Absolutely. Skin type is a huge factor. People with lighter skin tones are more prone to it simply because they have less of that baseline melanin to protect them.
Makes sense.
Genetics also plays a big role. If your parents got them easily, chances are you will too. And like we said, tanning beds, they're just an accelerator pedal for this entire process.
And beyond UV, which is clearly the main villain, the research points to a few other things that can contribute to these pigmentation changes, right?
Yes, UV is, let's say, 90% of the story. The other 10% involves, the natural slowdown in our skin's ability to repair itself as we get older. Hormonal shifts can play a part too, especially during pregnancy or menopause.
Okay.
And we're seeing more and more research on free radical damage from things like pollution. That environmental stress can also contribute to pigmentation problems over the long run.
So knowing these spots are basically harmless, but they are a sign of accelerated aging, a lot of people look for treatments for cosmetic reasons. For anyone listening who wants to fade the spots they have, let's start with the at-home stuff. What actually works?
We can sort of break the at-home options into two groups, things that reduce pigment and things that speed up cell turnover. The gold standard for reducing pigment is an ingredient called hydroquinone. It's a chemical that actually tells your skin to produce less pigment. You can get it over the counter or in stronger prescription versions. Then in that second group, the cell turnover boosters, you have tretinoin and retinol. And it's important to understand how they work. They don't block pigment. They just make your skin shed its old pigmented cells faster than it normally would.
So you're basically pushing the damaged cells up and out.
Precisely. You're pushing the damage to the surface and off your body. And vitamin C serums are a great thing to have in your routine, too, for their antioxidant effects and general brightening.
Now, what about all the home remedies you see online? Specifically, I have to ask about apple cider vinegar. What's the real story there?
That's a great question. We see that recommendation everywhere. The truth is, there is no scientific evidence that apple cider vinegar can get rid of age spots.
None at all.
None. And what's worse, because it's so acidic, putting undiluted ACV on your skin can actually damage your skin barrier. It can cause irritation, chemical burns. You could end up swapping an age spot for a darker, angrier-looking burn mark. It's best to stick to the proven ingredients.
That's a very clear advice. So when the topicals are enough, people often look into professional treatments. Can you walk us through what a dermatologist can offer?
Sure. These professional treatments all aim to physically remove or destroy that concentrated melanin. The most common ones are probably laser treatments and intense pulse light, or IPL.
How are those different?
So a laser uses a really focused single beam of light to heat up and shatter the pigment in a very precise spot. It's targeted. IPL, on the other hand, uses a broader spectrum of light. It scatters light over a wider area, so it's often better for treating larger patches of diffuse pigment.
Okay, so laser is for targeting, IPL is for a wider area. What if someone doesn't want to go the light therapy route?
Well, there's cryotherapy. That's where liquid nitrogen is used to freeze and destroy the extra pigment. It's very fast, but there is a risk of it leaving a patch that's either lighter or darker than the surrounding skin. And then you have chemical peels, which use acids to exfoliate the top layers of skin, encouraging new, less damaged skin to grow. And finally, things like dermabrasion, which is a physical exfoliation of the skin's surface.
That all sounds like a pretty significant investment, both time and money. Are there any long-term risks with these more aggressive treatments?
That's a very valid point. With any procedure that intentionally damages the skin, there's always a small risk of things like hypopigmentation, where the skin gets too light, or even hyperpigmentation, where the spot gets darker from inflammation.
So you need someone who really knows what they're doing.
Exactly. It has to be a skilled professional who understands the right settings for your specific skin type.
Which really just brings us back to the most important point. Prevention is so much better and cheaper than a cure. So what's the bottom line for preventing new spots from showing up in the first place?
Prevention is powerful because we know exactly what causes them. So the number one non-negotiable rule is daily sun protection.
Every single day?
Every single day. We're talking a broad spectrum sunscreen, SPF 30 or higher, applied every morning, even if it's cloudy.
I have to admit, applying it every day, especially when I'm just indoors, can feel like a chore. And what about reapplication? How strict do we need to be?
The science on this is pretty uncompromising. Sunscreen breaks down. If you're outside, you absolutely need to reapply it every 2 hours, and more if you're sweating or swimming.
And what about indoors?
Even indoors, UV rays come through windows. So if your desk is next to a sunny window, you're getting exposure. Consistency is the hardest part, but it pays the biggest dividends. And beyond that, it's about being smart. Try to limit your time in the sun during those peak hours, roughly 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wear protective, clothing wide-brimmed hats, sunglasses, and please just avoid tanning beds altogether.
Let's wrap up with monitoring. We've established that the spots are benign, but skin cancers can sometimes look similar. So when should you actually start to worry about a spot?
This is so important. Age spots themselves do not turn into cancer. But a new melanoma can look a lot like an age spot in its early stages, so you really need to use the universal ABCDE rule for checking any spot on your body.
Can you run us through that?
Of course, A is for asymmetry. If you cut it in half, the two sides don't match. B is for an irregular border. C is for color variation. Multiple shades of brown, black, even red in the same spot.
Okay. A, B, C.
D is for a diameter larger than about 6 millimeters, so the size of a pencil eraser. And E is for evolution. Any change in size, shape, or color over a short time is a red flag.
And are there any other symptoms beyond just what it looks like?
Yes, if a spot starts to itch, becomes painful, or starts to bleed. Those are not symptoms of a benign age spot, and that means it's time to see a dermatologist right away.
This has been incredibly clarifying. So, to summarize the biggest takeaways for everyone listening, age spots are caused by sun damage, not your liver. The term liver spot is a complete myth you can forget about.
Exactly. And the most important insight is that these spots are a direct sign of accumulated sun damage. They indicate accelerated photoaging, especially if you see them showing up before you turn 40.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to take away from this. If you are seeing these visible flags of UV damage on your skin today, how much damage is happening that you can't see? Think about how your habits right now are shaping your skin's health for the next 20 years and what you can do today to change that future. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.